All right, so good afternoon officially, everybody. And thank you so much for joining today. And first of all, thank you to the Greater Miami Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce for hosting us. This is going to be a really great workshop. We are concentrating on the AI fundamentals for business. And a little bit about myself here before we get started. My name is Thiago. If you didn't figure it out by the name, I am from Brazil, but I am a local here in Miami. And my company is called Elevate AI Consulting, where I am an AI educator and automation consultant. And that is the link there to my LinkedIn. It's just Thiago EF, if anybody wants to connect. And feel free to send me any questions that you have later on LinkedIn as well, if they come up to you later. Or let's just network and stay in touch. And today, we're going to be covering the ABCs of AI. As we know, most people out there are already using ChatGPT or Gemini or many other different AI tools that are available, but most people couldn't tell you anything about it. Like, couldn't tell you what it is, how it works, where did it come from, where does that magic that we all see when we enter a prompt into ChatGPT and we get an amazing answer. How does that actually work? And where did it come from? Then I'll show you some of my favorite free AI tools that we can start using today and some quick tips how to get the most out of any interaction that you have with any AI tool that may be out there. And we're going to finish off by talking a little bit about the future, what is coming down the line, and what we can expect as businesses in the next few months, years, and even decades, because things are going to get really, really interesting and really spicy. Let's get going. And always the first thing that I like to do with every presentation that I do, with every one of these workshops that I do, is I create a unique image, right? As we know, AI image generators are extremely powerful and they're really fun to use. A lot of people haven't had an opportunity to use one yet. And so I like to create a unique image to every presentation that we do. And so I'm going to be replacing this image here using an image generator. And I would love it if we can get a couple of volunteers here to tell us what this picture is going to be about. So feel free to unmute and tell me what do you want to see a picture about? Is it going to be about a person or a character, a place? What is our very unique image for this Miami workshop going to be?
I would like to see a gender fluid professional.
A gender fluid professional. I love it. So thank you for that. Somebody else out there. Okay, so somebody said this gender fluid professional is at the beach learning about AI. Thank you, Barb. At the beach, learning about AI. Anything else unique about this feature? Do you guys want it to be ultra realistic? Is this a cartoon? Is it a black and white photo? Are we talking about golden hour here? Feel free to type it into the chat there or just speak. Last input here for us to generate our AI image. At the style, okay, awesome. So I'm going to go with the first one here in the style of Hanna-Barbera. In the style of Hanna-Barbera cartoons. And I'm just going to go ahead and make the call since no one said it, but we'll make it golden hour, right? So this gender fluid professional is at the beach during golden hour. And so this tool, well, I'll talk a little bit more at the end. It is a PowerPoint presentation AI creator tool. It's extremely powerful, and it comes with this AI image generator included as well. And I'll talk a little bit more. It's one of my favorite free AI tools, and I'll talk a little bit more at the end. But let's see. This is a risky one here. Let's see what kind of image we can generate here for our presentation. Suspense. There we go. And it gives us a couple of different options, right? So some gender fluid folks here, or whatever AI interprets that to be. And it give us two different options. I really like actually this first one here, so we'll go with that. And there you go. That is our unique image for our presentation today that is never going to be recreated. And even if someone enters that exact same prompt request, they're not going to get the same photo. It's one of a kind. So that is an image generator. As you can see, very easily with some easy prompts, we can get some very impressive results. Let's start talking about AI. What is AI? How does it work? And in my line of work, I obviously am talking about AI all day long, and I hear all kinds of comments from people, right? And the range from AI is just fancy autocomplete to people saying that I hate AI, it's coming for my job, I don't want anything to do with it. And we're gonna address everyone within that range, and hopefully I'll be able, by the end of the day, to show you that AI is a lot more than just a fancy autocomplete. And we're gonna directly address the issue that everyone is talking about, which is AI coming for my job? So let's talk about it, right? Everybody out there is using AI, but what is actually AI? And very simply, AI refers to computer systems designed to mimic human intelligence, learning from data to make decisions and predictions. So I do have some words there bolded and underlined, right? Because those are keywords. And when we talk about human intelligence, it is not actually intelligence per se. It is mimicking us. It is computer programming that has learned from a lot of data and is just using math to sound like we sound and to type like we type, and is essentially just mimicking human intelligence. So it is not intelligence yet per se. It is simply programmed to work and talk like us. And as we know, AI is already everywhere, right? From your personalized recommendations on Netflix and Spotify to those AI-powered chatbots for customer service that we all hate, right? And to voice assistants like Siri, which is getting some AI upgrades soon, hopefully, Apple says. Alexa, we just had a big AI upgrade. If you guys have an Alexa at home, you'll definitely notice the difference in how well it's working. Fraud detection in banking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that I think is most interesting is that usually when there is a world-changing technology like this, think cars, right, or the internet, AI, the Industrial Revolution, you can think of many different examples of inventions throughout history where there's usually a changing of the guard, right? It's usually new entrants that are coming in, developing these new technologies, and they then become the biggest companies in the world, right? The thing with AI is that that is just not the case. It is the same tech giants that we've learned to love or hate over the past couple of decades that are dominating this space. And the reason is that these systems are just so expensive to train and produce the necessary computer power in order to train these systems that it takes a lot of resources. So even when we're talking about, I'm sure many of us here are working with Google Workspaces, right? So when we're talking about Gemini AI, obviously we're talking about Google, Amazon developing their own. I'm sure we've all seen in our Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp apps, all the different meta AIs that they're trying to push on to everything that they do. And even when you talk about OpenAI, which is the company that invented and owns ChatGPT, you would think OpenAI is that's a new name I haven't heard before, right? Yes, but guess what? Microsoft actually owns 49% of OpenAI. So this is truly not a changing of the guard. It is the same tech leaders and ultra-rich billionaires that are still behind this technology. And like it or not, we're going to be dealing with them for the foreseeable future. So now, Now that we understand that AI is really just mimicking us, right? It's really just programmed to mimic us. How does it do that, right? How does it actually work in the back end? How is it giving us those amazing answers that we're getting every time we enter a prompt into ChatGPT? This may look familiar to some people here, although most people on this call have jobs, so we're not home in the middle of the afternoon watching Drew Carey on The Price is Right. But if you've ever watched The Price is Right, you've probably seen them play this mini game that they do, and it's called a Plinko board. And for anyone that hasn't seen it, it's very simple. We have our contestant here at the top, and she dropped a ball at the top of the Plinko board in the beginning. That was her input, right? And along the way, there are pegs. And every time the ball hits one of those pegs, it has a 50-50 chance of either going left or right, right? And here we can visualize it a little bit better. Left or right. We dropped the ball. In this case, you went right, right, left, right, 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 left, etc., all the way until we reach this final destination, right, the output. If you do that enough times, well, in the world of math and statistics, this is called a random walk, right? And if you do that enough times, statistically speaking, we get a random distribution, a normal distribution, right, where statistics will tell us that we'll get that nice bell curve if we drop enough balls into our Plinko board. So what does the Plinko board have to do with AI, right? So the AI works very similar in the way that it's making decisions every time it hits one of those pegs. So you start with your input. In the case of our Plinko board, is dropping the ball at the top. In the case of AI, it is the prompt that we're entering into ChatGPT or whatever other system that we're using. From there, the AI starts processing that data, hitting millions of little pegs along the way and making decisions. So in the case of our Plinko board, the ball hits a peg, has a 50-50 chance of going either left or right. In the case of AI, the AI hits the next decision point, and it can go in 1 out of 70 million different directions. So, and then at the end, we get our prize, which in the case of our contestant was $10,000. And in our case, it's these magical answers that we're getting from AI. So to explain it a little bit deeper, those decision points, those pegs on the Plinko board are words or parts of words. So every word or part of a word out there is a different decision point where, in the case of this example here, the sentence that I have displaying, an AI-generated sentence, every word here is a decision point. So the AI system decided that "the" was the first word, made a decision point here, 1 in 70 million different directions, decided that the best next word is best, then the next one is staying, and then another decision point, 70 million different directions, about, down, all the way to until we get to where we are, and it's choosing the next word in the sentence. So as I mentioned, it's a game of probability, right? And in this case, the highest probability next word would be learn. So that is really what AI is doing, is in every single one of these words, it is stopping, making an analysis based on all the data that it has collected and choosing the next best word. So in this case, as I mentioned, it would be learn, but as we know, we can ask ChatGPT or one of these other tools the same question twice, and it'll give us the answer slightly different, right? It will still tell us the right thing usually, but in different phrasing, different formatting. And that is really what makes the difference between ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these other tools out there, is just the way that they're calibrated. Are they always going to give you the most likely word, so in this case, the 4.5% word, or is it sometimes going to give us, understand instead, because it's trying to be more creative? And the AI developers just call it that calibration, raising the temperature or lowering the temperature. Do you want it to be creative or statistically correct? And that is really the difference between all these systems. At the end of the day, there's only so much data out there in the world and on the internet. They've all been trained on pretty much the same data. So what makes them different is just how they're calibrated. What is their temperature? How creative do you want them to be? And then, of course, what makes the biggest difference is the input, right? Where you drop the ball on the top of the Plinko board matters to where it lands on the bottom. So really, that's what I mean when I say that AI is just mimicking us and just playing a game of math and probability to come up with those answers for us. That's really all it is. It's just a game of math. And another way that we can think about it is as a network of stars. So as we know, there are billions and trillions of stars out in the universe, right? That we don't even know how many there are. Now, if we imagine that every word in English and in every other language that has been recorded on the internet and typed out by humans, every single one of those words in every single language is a star out in the universe. And every single one of those stars is connected to each other. So you can begin to see how this creates just a huge network of data that the AI is analyzing. And what it's doing, it's essentially just figuring out the best path from one star to the other, to the other, to the other, all the way to the final destination, wherever it's trying to get to. So really, a huge network of stars, for me, is the best way that I've been able to try to envision this in my mind. But the reality is it's just too big for us to even being able to imagine, right? And so to me, the network of stars analogy really paints a picture of what those computer systems are actually doing in the back end. And with image generation, it works pretty much the same way. You enter the text prompt as we just saw in the beginning, right? And the difference is that pixels and colors can also be turned into mathematical equations. So instead of the network of stars of words and letters, now we have this network of stars of pixels and colors and different compositions. And the AI system, once you enter that prompt, it starts with a process called stable diffusion, which essentially is that it starts from nothing, it's just noise, and based on the prompt that you gave it, it refines that image little by little, until very impressively, it gives us a result like the one that we just generated at the beginning, or any of the images that you see here on this slide that were all AI generated. And for image recognition, works very similar to generation. And what you guys are not going to be happy to hear is that we've all been working for free for more than a decade now, probably closer to 2 decades. Every time we log into one of those websites and it asks us the CAPTCHA, right? Identify all the dogs, identify all the cats, identify all the telephone poles, identify all the taxis. We are really training AI systems. We are adding to their database of different images and telling them what those images are so that they can later use those same images to create new images for us based on our requests. So image generation and recognition is actually less intensive to train than words at text, right? And if you think about it, images are usually not subjective, right? So for me to train an AI, it's very easy for me to say, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is a brown dog, this is a dog in a tutu, right? There's very little room for interpretation, or at least less room for interpretation than with text. Because with text, as we know, the same word can have many different variations, different meanings, depending on the context, different definitions. And so there's just more parameters with words than with photos, which to me was actually kind of surprising. And then once you enter that prompt, the AI that's, for example, is starting here in the middle, in the void, But depending on the prompt that you entered, it can generate an awesome image for you of a drawing of a dog, or an ultra realistic bowl of fruit, or an architect sketch, or an interpretation of Starry Night, all from the center here of nothing, diffusing from there, iterating on the image until we get to the final output that you requested with your prompt. So extremely impressive, but as I said, we have been working for free without knowing for a long time, training these systems ourselves. So that's just how it goes. And so to connect all those ideas together, right? What does this mean? If we think back of our Plinko board in the beginning, that random walk that we talked about, on that Plinko board, there's 144 pegs, 144 decision points, right? Which gives it 65,000 possible paths. So that's why it's a perfect game for a game show like The Price is Right, because they can record episodes every day and it'll always be exciting, right? The ball will always go down on a different path. And with AI, it works very much the same way, but in a much, much bigger scale. So if we're talking about language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Meta AI, those decision points and those different parameters are over 1,700,000,000,000 of them. And with image generation, that process that I told you about called stable diffusion, there's about 860 billion different parameters that the AI is analyzing in order to give us, again, those magical answers that we're getting at the end, right? And so let's kind of connect the dots there and bring it all together, right? So we now know what AI is, right? A little bit of how it works, how the sauce is made in the end. But where did it come from, right? How did this all start? How did this technology become available? And it might not surprise some people here to know that it all started with video games, right? So I remember when I was a kid, I was very young, my uncle had a Nintendo, the original Nintendo. And then for Christmas one year, my mom got me the Super Nintendo, and I was super happy, right? And then after that, started the 3D games. Like the thing that I wanted the most was a Nintendo 64, right? Why? Because it was one of the first ones where 3D graphics existed. Now I could play Mario in this beautiful 3D environment rather than just watching Mario, scroll across the screen like it used to before. So those 3D worlds, those 3D games are powered by what are called GPUs, graphic processing units. So those are originally used in the original PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo 64, and every generation that has come since then. Now, remember the star network that I was talking about, right? Every star connected to each other, creating this huge multi-dimensional network of information. That, to me, reminds me of a 3D gaming world a little bit. It has this multi-dimensional effect to it. And that is exactly what AI researchers discovered sometime in the last decade. AI researchers discovered that these gaming GPUs can process AI calculations much faster than the traditional computer chips that they are using. And that caused an exponential progress in the development of AI. AI has been, as a concept, is something that's been around for decades and decades, but just within the last decade or so is when we discovered that these graphic chips can also be used to process AI data. And fast forward to today, AI is everywhere, right? We are here today talking about it. And NVIDIA, who is the only producers of these graphic processing units, is now the most valuable company in the world. So let's talk about that, and we will connect that to what is going on overall in the stock market and in our economy, right? What is going on with NVIDIA? So, as I mentioned, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, they were producing graphic chips for video games. Their stock price pretty steady, right? From 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, 2020 comes around, and I don't mean to take everybody here to back to 2020. I know a lot of things happened in 2020 that people would rather forget, right? But other than the pandemic and things like that, there was something going on in the tech world that really impacted NVIDIA stock specifically. And that was the boom of crypto, right? Bitcoin. If you remember when we were stuck at home during the quarantine and all that stuff, everybody was home trading crypto. And we're not going to get into crypto today, but if you've ever heard of Bitcoin, you've probably heard of Bitcoin mining, which is the process of creating Bitcoins, which also requires a ton of data and processing power, right? And so we can see that right here in the stock of NVIDIA in 2020. Everybody was talking about Bitcoin is going to go up to $100,000, buy this coin, buy that coin. The stock started going up. Then things leveled off. So people were not talking about Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies as much. So the stock started to go down. And then 2023 comes around and ChatGPT is released. And so we're about 2 years out from that now. And we can see here, even at the height of the crypto fever, the stock price probably around $40 or something like that around here, right? Went down and then went up exponentially when ChatGPT was released, up to $160 a share, which is what this screenshot is from the close of market yesterday. Total percentage increase of almost 400,000% since they launched, right? And so insane numbers. And why is that, right? Number one, as we know, AI is everywhere. Every company out there is using it. You don't see a publicly traded company right now announce their performance results without at least mentioning AI multiple times in their reports. And that is being the effect across the economy. With NVIDIA specifically, they are pretty much the only game in town when it comes to these most powerful GPUs, these graphic processing units, these chips that are needed for training AI. So that is why they are now the most valuable company in the world. And the reality is that Google, Meta, Amazon, all of these companies are now building their own AI chip factories and trying to design in-house their own chips. So we don't know how long NVIDIA is going to continue to be the dominant player, right, and the only game in town. But what we do know is that these factories do take up to 10 years to be operational. So even though Google and Microsoft and everybody else is trying to launch their own products right now and open their own factories, it's going to be a while before they can be anywhere near NVIDIA's level, right? So, and this is the part I always like to joke, this is not investment advice. I am not telling you to go invest in NVIDIA. We don't know what's going to happen with the stock, right? But that is the reason why people are continuing to bet on NVIDIA and many other AI-related companies like this, because there's just very few options of companies out there that can provide all the computing power in a chip that is needed to process those millions and billions and trillions of different parameters that we just talked about, times the population of the Earth, right? Times however many requests they're actually inputting into AI every single minute is a huge amount of data. And this is why NVIDIA is now the most valuable company in the world. And we know that it's not just NVIDIA, right? And it's not just tech companies that are talking about this right now. In the consumer tech world, for example, we already talked about Spotify and Netflix, right, and their AI recommendations. Samsung has a lot of AI already on their Galaxy phones, Zoom and Google Meets with their AI meeting transcribers, right? In retail and commerce, Walmart, Target, all these different companies using AI to manage inventory, forecast demand, and to improve, or so they think, their customer service. In food and beverage is also not excluded. We might think that that's a more low technology sector. However, we can expect to go to Taco Bell very soon. They're testing this out, Chick-fil-A as well. And you're going to be placing an order on the drive-thru, not talking to a person, but just talking to an AI chatbot. And not to mention, right, when you go into the store, as at McDonald's, for example, as we know, they already have those huge screens where people can order themselves. They'll soon be adding just AI cashiers in general. And then if you keep going on that train of thought, right? So now there's no one taking orders at the cashier or at the drive-thru. Who's working at McDonald's anymore, right? There's already robots that can drop the fries and flip the burgers and do all the cooking. And so pretty soon we're looking at these locations maybe having just 1 or 2 employees just for maintenance, right? Those are the changes that are coming down. And in banking and financing as well, with all of the major players using AI for fraud detection, contract review, again, customer service, and data analysis as well. So really, it doesn't matter if your company is a technology company or not a technology company. AI is affecting businesses throughout the entire economy, and it is very important that we learn how to use it effectively. So, speaking of using AI effectively, now we're going to get to see a few AI tools. As I mentioned, some of my favorite free tools that we can take advantage of. However, I always like to introduce a framework that I call the PREPA framework. And let me explain a little bit of how this works. So imagine you get home from work, right? You're super hungry. And so you call your significant other and you say, hey, babe, can you pick up dinner? And babe says, yes, of course, I'll pick up dinner. So then, an hour later, babe gets home with dinner and they brought Chipotle, right? But you are a true Miamian and you were really craving a Publix sub, right? Or Pollo Tropical, I don't know. You didn't tell babe exactly what you wanted, right? But now you're upset. I didn't get the food I wanted, but we have to remember that babe doesn't live in our heads, right? And if my husband's on the call, I don't know if he is. This is not a personal example, generic, right? And essentially, with AI, it's exactly the same thing. You have to tell it exactly what you want in order to get the best results. You are not going to get the best business plan that you can if you just type in, write me a business plan for a food truck. You will get an amazing business plan if you give it the information. So that is what this framework is about. The P stands for pre-existing conditions. So don't just go and ask for the business plan. Give the AI the pre-existing conditions. I'm an entrepreneur. I live in Miami. This is the type of business that I'm looking for. This is the type of customers that I'm trying to reach, right? Give it the setting and the context, the P for pre-existing conditions. R stands for role. This one is a little bit silly, but I promise you that it works. So if you're asking for a meal plan, you want to assign ChatGPT the role of the best nutritionist in the world, right? If you want to write a business plan, you want to tell ChatGPT, I want you to act like the best business plan expert in the world. If you're looking for a travel itinerary, you want to tell ChatGPT, I want you to act like a travel agent. And it may seem kind of silly, and people ask me all the time, but why doesn't AI have access already to all the data? Yes, but when you tell it a role, you are centering it on the most accurate information that it can find for the data that it has about things related to that role, right? So you get much, much better answers. Then the E stands for explicit instructions. Clearly state what you want the AI to do, right? Do you want a 5-page business plan? Do you want an email recap? Do you want it to help you improve the writing of your email that you already wrote? Tell it exactly what it is that you want. And then set the parameters. So for example, I post a lot of videos to my YouTube channel. I have ChatGPT help me with those descriptions. Those descriptions are a maximum of 500 characters. So right there, that's a parameter. Give me a YouTube video description for this video up to 500 characters maximum. Or give me the information in an Excel file with these columns. Give me a 5-slide PowerPoint presentation with these points. Give it the exact parameters of what you want. Otherwise, it's going to be making assumptions and it's going to be giving you the Chipotle instead of the Pollo Tropical, right? And finally, and this is the most powerful one, and if this is the one tip that you walk away with today, it is my favorite. When you need personalized answers that may require a lot of information, the best thing to do is to just tell ChatGPT to ask you what information it needs. So you give it the pre-existing conditions, you tell it the role, you give it the instructions, you tell it the parameters that you wanted, and then you say, hey, ChatGPT, if there's any additional information that you need, ask me. Ask me 3 to 5 questions about this before you give me the results. Because then ChatGPT will analyze the data that you gave it, and we'll see what is missing. So maybe you're asking for a business plan. ChatGPT might come back to you and say, awesome. Is this business plan for, for high school students, or is your target market, young professionals, right? It'll ask you many different questions that it can help center it and the information that it really needs. So I'm going to give an example of this. Let's make a travel itinerary. If anybody here is going on a trip anytime soon, let's type it in the location here on the chat, and let's make the best travel itinerary for your trip that we possibly can have. All right, Marco, you're going to Italy. We're in Italy, Marco. Tell me a little bit more. Okay, you're in Rome right now. I'm jealous. So for this specifically, I am going to be using Perplexity. Perplexity is another chat tool that is very similar to ChatGPT or Gemini. The reason that I personally like it more is because it's a little bit more transparent about the sources that it's using to give you the information. And then it also gives you some follow-up prompts that you can easily click to continue. So using our framework, I am traveling to, I typed Italy. Italy, going to Rome, and Marco, I'm just gonna make some stuff here, just to make it hard for our AI. I'm going to Rome, traveling with 2 kids and elderly parents. So this is important, right? This pre-existing conditions are important because a travel itinerary is going to be completely different if you're just 2 young adults traveling versus if you're a couple traveling with kids versus if you're taking your elderly parents on a nice vacation, right? So right away we can see the pre-existing conditions make a huge difference. For the role, I'm telling it that it is an expert travel advisor plugged into the latest trends and coolest places. My explicit instructions are for it to make me a 5-day travel itinerary, including restaurants, museums, and tourist attractions. For my parameters, what I told it, Don't give me the typical touristy stuff. I want off the path, hidden gems, exclusive spots. And then my favorite part, ask me up to 3 questions with information you need to make this trip itinerary. So let's see what are the questions that Perplexity is going to ask us. So first question that it asked me, great question, right? Are there any dietary preferences in this, or restrictions? So I said, hey, include restaurants in my itinerary. So now it's asking me, hey, what kind of restaurants do you want? Very relevant, right? So I'm going to tell it that I am vegetarian. My kids are gluten-free. Okay. Number 2, mobility needs. Do your elderly parents require wheelchair access or have difficulty with stairs? In this case, I'm just going to say no. But again, we can see how that's a very relevant question through an itinerary, right? And we didn't mention that on our request. So, and then as far as our interests, any particular interests such as art, history, hands-on activities. Let's say I like art, theme parks, and shopping. Okay, so there you go. It asked me 3 questions. I will answer them. And right away, we have our itinerary. So here we have day 1, including activities for the morning, for lunch, for afternoon, and dinner. Day 2, it gave it a theme. This is going to be a more contemporary art and hidden museums day. So again, with activities for all day, and so on and so forth for the 5 days that you asked for, right? And then from here, as I mentioned, the reason that I like Perplexity specifically is that we can go to the bottom and we'll see related links, right? So if I want to keep going down deeper on my research, I can click on one of these here easily and keep going and going and going. So very, very cool, very powerful, and again, an easy way to see why giving those pre-existing conditions, right, telling you to ask you the questions, why that actually makes a huge difference in the final result that we receive. So that is Perplexity using the PREPA framework. Now, for a more business-minded example, this one we're going to be using Gemini from Google. If you or your company uses Google Workspaces, you probably already have access to Gemini. And Gemini and ChatGPT both have this feature that is incredible for business owners, and it's called Deep Research. You can see it down here in Gemini where you can select Deep Research. In ChatGPT, it's very similar. You just click at the bottom. And for my business, I recently did one of these workshops in person in Coral Gables. And so I wanted to invite business owners around the area in order to attend my workshop. So I decided to do a deep research. So I gave it the pre-existing conditions, right? I'm an AI consultant. I'm hosting an AI fundamentals workshop for business owners in Coral Gables. So that is the context. Then I told it exactly what I wanted. I want you to find me small businesses with up to 50 employees around this address in Coral Gables, including mortgage lenders, real estate agencies, insurance agencies, and I listed out the type of businesses that are usually a good leads for my personal business, right? And then I went ahead and I said exclude bars and restaurants and retail shops, since that's not usually a target that is looking for my services at this time. And then I gave it my parameters. What do I want? I want a spreadsheet with these columns. I want you to tell me the business name. I want you to tell me the business owner's name. I want their email address. I want you to tell me the type of business that it is, and give me the website and social media links, right? And then I gave it even more details, prioritize the owners, businesses that are currently open, and make sure that they have some kind of online presence, such as a website or LinkedIn or anything like that, so that I can be sure that these are actual real businesses. And then finally, I was very specific. Give me 50 results. So deep research, once you send this, this prompt, the reason it's called deep research is that it will spend a long time doing the research for you. In my experience, depending on what you're asking, it can take between 10 or 15 minutes. We'll go ahead and send this prompt here. And because it is deep research, usually Gemini will come back, or ChatGPT or any other tool will come back and ask you some questions already. Even though I didn't tell it to ask me questions, it probably will. In this case, it didn't. It just gave me the plan that it's going to follow for this deep research. So it gave me the full plan. I can edit here the plan, or I can just say start research, right? And once we do that, as I mentioned, it does take about 10 to 15 minutes. It does show you the thinking that it's doing throughout, and it does give you, at the end, the full list of resources that you use to find that information, right? So we'll leave that one here working. As I said, it takes 10 or 15 minutes, but I have one here already done, exact same prompt. And this is the result that it gave me here. It gave me an executive summary. It talked about the process that it used in order to find these businesses. It even told me, hey, you asked me for 50 businesses around that address, but we couldn't find it. So we expanded the radius a little bit to up to 2 miles. And from there, here is our little Excel with the exact columns that I asked for, and business information, including their email, address, phone number. And from here, I can easily copy these emails and send out invitations to these local businesses, right? So you can see how for business, this is very useful for generating leads. I know that in our community here in the chamber, we have a lot of real estate agents or insurance agents and things like that, different types of businesses that need to be constantly generating new leads. This is one way that you can do it for free. I personally do this once a week. In this case, the example that I showed you, I did it for the workshop, but I do this weekly just for my cold email outreach. Find me 50 businesses in this area of this type, give me their email addresses, and then I start emailing them to see if they might be interested in my services, right? So deep research, extremely powerful tool, and I highly recommend using it for business and for any personal needs that you may have as well when something requires a little bit more research and you need to know the sources, which I'll show you here. Here are all the sources that Gemini used to come up with this report for me. So I could go a little bit deeper even and continue researching them if I need. So deep research, extremely powerful. Now, I'll give you a couple more examples, but let's talk about ChatGPT specifically, right? Because that is the main tool that everybody out there is using. It is the most popular AI tool. And for most people ask me all the time, hey, which chat, which AI chat should I be using? Should I be using Gemini? Should I be using ChatGPT? What I always tell people is they're very similar. But if you're not sure, if you don't have a specific need, then just go with the best and the most popular, which is ChatGPT. And as I just showed in those examples, you can use it for many different things, right? Content creation, as we did with the image generations, right? Legal and financial. Just recently, my mom got a letter from Medicaid that I could not figure out what it meant, like some law that changed. Does this apply to my mom or not? I scanned the letter, asked ChatGPT, explain this to me. And it explained it to me, and I understood it. What was the effect? Is she going to get more money, less money, etc. Right? For working for business, a great thing to do is if you ever have a contract that you need to review. Martha, I see your question. The meeting is being recorded. I will share. I'll share it later. For working for business, right? If you need to review a contract, for example, to generate emails. As a learning companion, my favorite example is one of my friends. His kid is in, I don't know if the 5th or the 6th grade. In any case, my friend is telling me when I need to help him do his homework, what I do is take his homework, take a photo of it, tell ChatGPT to explain it to me so that I can then go and explain it to my son. And he's like, wow, my son thinks I'm a genius, right? Like he thinks that I know everything. I can solve all his homework problems, but he's using this little hack, right? Productivity is a big one. Automation, that is a big part of what I do for businesses, is creating different automations for repetitive tasks. Life and wellness, as we just saw the examples of generating a trip itinerary. I've generated before like meal plans as well. And for planning and organizing and just keeping yourself efficient and effective. Really, if you can think it, you can ask it, and ChatGPT can probably do it. And some of my favorite tools, and I'm going to show you examples of how these work. So my number one tool that I love is called Otter.ai. And Otter, what it's doing is just taking meeting notes and summarizing them. ChatGPT and Gemini, which we already talked about, and Gamma, which is this app that I am using today to make the presentation. And the most fun thing is when you use all of these tools combined in order to create really fast and really powerful content. And so let me show you an example of how that works. Let me open here so this is Gamma, and we're just going to be creating here a new presentation with AI. And in this case, I'm just going to paste in the text, right? And we're going to create a presentation. Let's just create a presentation today about LGBTQ life in Miami. I want 5 slides, top places to visit, what else? Top bars, best beaches for LGBTQ in Miami, as an example, right? Here, I would normally just enter a full text of exactly the presentation that I want, but as an example, we'll do that. And with Gamma, you can create web pages, documents, or even social posts with just prompts. So that's why this is one of my favorite tools. It's extremely powerful. And from there, once you have the text entered, you can tell it exactly how many slides you want, if you want it to generate text or condense, and even who the audience is. Is this for LGBTQ tourists? Is it for high schoolers? Who is this presentation for? And very easily, you pick a theme, and like magic, we're going to watch this presentation about LGBTQ life in Miami be created right in front of our eyes. And it will include as well AI-generated images. So very impressive photo here of Miami skyline with some flags, must visit spots in Miami, nightlife spots, LGBTQ friendly beaches, and so on and so forth, right? And so very, very quickly, you can create this presentation. I think back to when I was in my corporate job, I would spend sometimes weeks preparing presentations if it was a big client. And this would have saved me so many hours, right? And combining this with the transcripts that you can get from a meeting summarizer, for example. Imagine you just paste that transcript from your meeting, you ask ChatGPT to summarize it for you, you paste it into Gamma, and within 5 minutes, you have an awesome, super professional looking presentation that you can send to your clients about the meeting that you literally just finished on the phone a few minutes ago, right? So extremely impressive tool. Again, it is free within certain limits, but even the plan that's not free, the plan that I use is $10 a month, and I can tell you that it's the best $10 that I spend probably every month, right? And so very, very powerful stuff there. On the business side, I'm sure many of you have heard about automations by this point. And what that means is essentially just taking those repetitive tasks that we do on our day-to-day basis, like opening an email, open the PDF file, copy paste the customer's address into QuickBooks, right? Like whatever those repetitive tasks that we do, create a new calendar event based on the email, right? All of these tasks that we currently have people spending time and resources, they can now be automated so that these same employees can concentrate on their actual jobs of selling or marketing or the actual high value added tasks that we all have in our jobs, but that we all know and feel inundated by admin work, right? That admin work can now be automated without changing any of the current softwares that your company is currently using. We're just applying an AI step in between to interpret and output the data. And like I said, any repetitive task at work or in your personal life can be now fully automated, giving you a lot more time to be efficient with other things. And just to give everybody an idea of other AI services that are available out there, everything from increasing your digital presence, creating websites, chatbots, accelerating your market and sales teams with lead generation, social media content, brand development, business operations, AI-powered documentation, you name it, it is currently possible. And I'd be happy to chat if anybody's interested in finding out more about that. So to close off here, I see that we are exactly at 1 p.m., so I am running a couple minutes late. But what are the risks, right? We've probably heard about hallucinations. Sometimes AI can give you very convincing looking information, but that it is actually not real at all, right? And that's called a hallucination. So something to watch out for. And that happens because, as we know, there's a ton of fake news and just fake information in general on the internet. And that's where AI is pulling its data, right? Next big risk of AI is copyright concerns, especially for artists. We already know that these AI systems have crawled everything that humans have ever done if it's been posted on the internet. And now the question is, who owns that material, right? Should artists be getting compensated for those? And on the other side of that, this AI image that we see here generated on my slide, who owns that image, right? I'm not the artist. AI is not really an artist. So who owns this image? A lot of big concerns there. And then deepfakes. AI can clone voices and create fake photos and videos. I'm sure you all saw, I believe it was last year, the deepfake photos of the Pope. Let me just deepfake. And these images, everybody was thinking was real, that the Pope was out there wearing ultra luxury, I forget what the brand is, but I think it was Gucci or Louis Vuitton. These pictures were all over the internet, and everybody was thinking that the Pope is now gone, fancy and brand aware. And when we look at the actual images, AI experts can see that there are flaws. That's how we can tell that they are not real. But you glance at this for 1 second as you're doom scrolling on social media, definitely going to think it's real, right? And the problem, as we know, with deepfakes or fake news, fake anything in general, is that once something goes viral, by the time it gets debunked, only a small percentage of people see the debunking, right? The viral thing is super fun and everybody sees it, The debunking, not so much. So I'm sure there's many people out there thinking that deepfake Pope was still real. And that is a real concern, especially during political season, right? When, people can create videos of political candidates saying or doing things that they didn't say or do. And in the near future, what are the risks, right? More job displacement. Unfortunately, when I started doing these workshops a few months ago, I was talking about entry-level jobs being displaced, maybe not so many interns or assistants. Literally today before this workshop, I saw an article on Axios pointing out that the number of employees that managers are managing has doubled since 2019. So it used to be that one manager was managing 3 employees. Now they manage on average 6. And that is an effect of AI. Those middle manager jobs are also getting reduced. We saw recently even, I believe it was Microsoft, no, it was Meta, Facebook, announcing that they were letting go of the majority of their developers. And I'm old enough to remember when I was in college, everybody told me, go be a coder, learn how to code. That's the job of the future. Not so much anymore. Even those jobs are now at risk. Financial privacy erosion. We've already been facing many problems with privacy, especially since the invention of the internet and social media. And that's going to be exacerbated by AI. Smarter autonomous weapons are already being used. So think of drones and other types of weapons being used to make decisions on the fly on the battlefield. And that, if you really start thinking about that ethically, it raises a lot of questions, right? Killer machines that the military already has in their possession. And the same issue that we've always been having, especially since social media, which is increased algorithmic bias, especially those of us here on the call who are members of the chamber, right? We're very aware how minority groups can be affected disproportionately by these kind of biases. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, it's the same people at the top, right? It's the same Microsofts, it's the same Facebook, it's the same Google, it's the same companies still at the lead. And the problems that they've been bringing to our society with these algorithms are only going to get worse, is what I predict. So where is AI headed? You've probably heard about agents by now, AI agents. The difference between an agent and what we have now is that right now I can go to ChatGPT and say, what is the best restaurant in Miami? Pretty soon, I'm going to be able to tell my AI agent, hey, AI agent, go talk to Lizette's AI agent, see when she's free, and make us a reservation at the best restaurant in Miami. So Lizette and I just have to show up to our dinner. We don't even have to talk to each other. Our agents will handle everything. And that's already happening. Many companies are already replacing employees with agents. The next thing is AGI, and this is actual intelligence. Remember, I talked about how AI is not actual intelligence yet. This is human-level artificial intelligence capable of reasoning, learning, and making decisions for itself. And it was recently predicted that was coming in 2040, and now people are saying 2030. So interesting stuff coming down the line. And if you listen to the tech leaders, right, the billionaires, they assure us that what's coming down the line is utopia, right? That AI is going to democratize all the information, and that we're all going to have our little agents out there in the field working for us and making money for us. I am skeptical about that. I am still old enough to remember when the internet was supposed to do that, right? The internet was supposed to democratize all the information, and it has, right? And it has created a lot of wealth for a lot of different people. However, are we living in a utopia right now? I would say that we're not, and I don't predict that AI is going to be the thing that brings that utopia either. But of course, these tech leaders stand to make a lot of money by making us believe that, and so that is what they're saying. And final thought here, embrace AI or fall behind, right? I mentioned in the beginning, the main question that I hear multiple times a day is AI going to take my job? Is AI going to take my job? What's going to happen to my job? That's what everybody's asking me all the time. And what I tell everybody is that AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who knows how to use and work with AI might. So that's the reason why I do these workshops. I do them for the community. This is also one of the corporate trainings that I offer, because I truly believe that we have to get on the same playing field, right? I've seen what happened to the internet. We are 30 years now into the internet, and a lot of people still don't know the basics of it, the fundamentals, and are really struggling, especially older individuals, really struggling just to live their daily lives because now the internet is everywhere. Imagine that times 1,000 with AI. So it is really important to learn, and you've already taken the first step by being curious and being here today. And that is really my final message to everybody here. Just learn how to use AI, because you want to be the person that is using it rather than the person that's being replaced by somebody that knows how to use it. And so with that, thank you all so much. I know a few people had to drop off here. If anybody is willing and able to scan a QR code there and leave me a review, it really makes a huge difference to my business. This is the list of tools that we use. I will leave this up here. Oh, I can't leave it up actually, and I will just check out on the questions here if we have any questions before we go. So Barb was asking, for small business owners who don't have access to big, oops, what happened here? For small business owners who don't have access to big data teams or large tech budgets, what are some practical ways that they can start using AI tools to grow business, support finance, work, or enhance customer experience? And to me, the answer to that is training. Right? You don't need to have big data. You don't need to have a big team even, but you do need to have a team that knows how to access these tools. So that would be my answer to that. Then she also asked, what could be the lowest effort with high impact way a business can start using AI today? That is actually very easy. Whether you're using Microsoft or Copilot, that would be the number one, or Microsoft or Google, sorry, that would be the number one, ensuring that all your employees have access to it, and then ensuring that they have the training, right? As we saw today with some very quick tips, with a little bit of context that you give AI, you get a lot more better answers, but most people don't know that, right? Most people are still using AI like Google, right? Just asking it a question. And so that is what I would say is number one, having the tools available, and then number two, making the training available as well. Let me see here. I don't see any other questions here in the chat. If anybody has any questions here before we take off.
I have one. I have
Yes.
one more. I'm so sorry. Like, I really enjoy this session, and thank you so much for carving out the time to teach us some of the information that you've shared. Actually, two questions. One, I hope this presentation will be made available to us so that we can continue to refer back to it. I know I've made several notes here on my board. I, of course, not using AI, but the good old-fashioned dry erase board, right? So thank you. But my question is, how can we avoid, or how can we train our agent to not hallucinate? Currently, I'm taking a federal, I'm studying for a federal regulatory exam. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed when I put in some exact information, I've noticed some hallucinations. And obviously that's not helpful because that's just completely made up. Mm-hmm. Is there a series of prompts or something that we could train our our agent to like not
Not
hallucinate?
Yeah, so there are. So for something, so if you're doing something for school or something for work, especially, you can tell when you ChatGPT, when you make that request, to use only trusted sources, right? And if you have sources that you prefer as well, like specific websites or different publications that are trusted for the field that you're in, you can ask ChatGPT to use those sources specifically, right? That's number one. What's that?
Exclusively.
Exclusively and specifically, right? Yes. And then the other thing also, what I always like to do when it's something important, right? Number one, that deep research example that I gave is huge because it does give you all the sources. But then when I do get answers, if I have any doubts, then I will also ask ChatGPT, hey, give me the actual source for this, or where did you get this from? Right? That's the best way to do it. Unfortunately, as we know, most people are, will do something like just ask ChatGPT to create something. They won't even review it and they'll just turn it in. That is not what I recommend people. Definitely double check the information. And if you have any doubts, ask ChatGPT for the source.
Thank you. Thank you. That deep research was new for me, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. It's really, really powerful. Like I said, I use it weekly for my business. So,
Yeah.
Ray has a question.
Yeah. There is some restriction of what we can ask and what we cannot ask to, for example, ChatGPT. Do they have something like because I asked something the other day and he said that he's not allowed to respond that kind of thing. So
that's a very good question, right? So number one, just know that it will not actually give you copyrighted material. So that's one of the things. So if you're asking, hey, give me an excerpt from this book, it's not going to pull the exact paragraph. It might rewrite the paragraph for you and tell you about it, but it won't do it. So copyrighted material that is actually protected, it will not reproduce. In the beginning, remember when we were doing that image generator, I asked, what is this picture about? If somebody had said, I don't know, a celebrity or something like that, it's not going to do that either because those images are also protected, right? People's rights and likeness. But as a general rule, what I would say is, if you wouldn't Google it, I wouldn't ask ChatGPT for it either, right? So if we all know, many taboo topics out there that we probably shouldn't even be putting on Google that can represent a risk. If you wouldn't be Googling it, I also wouldn't be putting it on ChatGPT. And if you wouldn't want people to see it, then I wouldn't do it either. You know what I mean?
And sorry to interrupt, everything that we do with the ChatGPT, it's like 100% confidential? Or is any way that someone behind the software can see and read or follow what I do?
It is. So there's two things there in your question, right? It is confidential in the sense that nobody else is going to see it, right? But if you're using the free account of ChatGPT, OpenAI, the company that owns it, is using all that data that you're putting in to train the AI themselves. So we are really, when I talk about working for free, we're continuing to work for free when we're entering these prompts into ChatGPT. We're giving it more data and it's getting better. But if you're using the paid version for ChatGPT, which the cheapest one is $20 a month, you can go in your settings and turn that off. You can opt out of having your data used for training. Okay. So that is one of the ways that you can also guarantee a little bit more privacy for yourself.
Okay. No, I asked him because I was asking something related about my mom when she was sick and I was dealing with it. And at some point I said, I'm sorry, I don't want anyone to know what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I was very curious of what can I do for my mom and follow many things. And I was really concerned, oh my God, I don't want someone, I don't know.
So what I always like to tell people is, It's just as secure as your Google Drive or your email, right? So if it's something that you wouldn't email, you wouldn't save on your computer, I also wouldn't upload it to ChatGPT, right? That's kind of the reality. So, and especially for companies, if you don't want ChatGPT to train its bots on your company data, turn off that setting for sure, you know?
Yeah.
They are giving you the free version. They let you use it for free, but as we all know, nothing is actually free. The way that they can continue offering it for free is by using your data to train more.
Yeah.
So that's what I usually tell companies when they ask me about privacy is, do you trust Google? You know, do you trust Microsoft? This is not any different. You know, if you would put it in an email, you can put it in ChatGPT. If you wouldn't, then don't.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I find to be a little bit challenging is to be able to trust ChatGPT. So I've got the paid version, and I won't upload. I mean, I work for a large company, and I won't upload like any names or any dollars, or especially on the strategy side where I work. But I do create strategies, kind of anonymizing, like my own self, anonymizing the information that I share. But it really does create incredible results.
Yeah, and I think the way that you're doing is definitely a best practice. You know, if it's confidential information or something that you don't want to share, then just keep it separate, for sure. But overall, it's like I said, it's what I tell people. If you trust the storage systems, right, at Google or at Microsoft or Amazon, OpenAI, ChatGPT, these are all using the same, right? They can be hacked just like everybody else can be hacked, right? And so that's why I say if it's something that you wouldn't send by email, if it's confidential enough that you wouldn't send by email, then definitely don't upload it to ChatGPT. All right, so we are going 20 minutes over already. So we're gonna end here for today. We do have another session at 6. If you enjoy this and want to refer it to anybody, I really appreciate it. But otherwise, I will organize with Lizette here to make sure that everybody that registered can receive a copy of the video when I post it up. So
yeah, but the next one is gonna be the same.
The same, yeah, the same.
Okay, I'm gonna be letting people know. If you miss this one, please join the second. Okay, thank you,
Yeah,
Tiago.
for sure. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.